For many of us, the civil unrest of the past week in our country has been a new experience. We weren't around during the 60s, and we're not familiar with time periods of intense civil unrest, protesting, rioting, and ways to respond and comprehend what we're seeing. So I'd like to take a minute and just offer a few words of perspective on the situation that we're currently living in. And the first thing I think we have to start off with is understanding the distinction between protesting and rioting and making sure not to conflate the two issues. There's a strong yetzer hara to lump it all together, to assume the protesting is also the rioting, and therefore it will lead to racist comments, it will lead to bigotry, it will lead to hatred. We know all about hatred from the Torah. And the Torah gives us a whole spiralizing situation of hatred of the other in chapter 1, Perek Aleph of the book of Shemot, in which the Egyptians first feared the Jews before eventually enslaving them and then killing their infant males. And the first breach in the walls of society is fear. And when we have fear of the other, ultimately terrible things can happen. And that's why we need to take a step back and realize that many protesters are not rioting. Many protesters have concerns that they're nervous about, that they're deeply anguished about, and therefore they're coming to the streets to protest. There are people, terrible people, evil people, who have taken opportunity of this time of unrest and the protests in order to do terrible things. And the rioting and the looting that's been happening is all terrible, and we clearly condemn it all. But it doesn't mean that the majority of the people who are protesting don't have a point, don't have a voice that it deserves to be heard, that we should allow fear to overtake us and not hear them. And that's something I think, as Jews, I think it's something very important for us to do. Thankfully, we live in a society in which we grow up, we have very positive attitudes towards the police, we're able to work with them, we view them as a bastion of safety, and definitely as a minority within the country, we're very thankful for their constant presence. However, it doesn't mean we can't acknowledge that it's not the same reality for everybody, that there are other people who grow up and they get trained by the parents on how to respond to police, how to talk to them, where to place their hands when they get pulled over for a car ticket. That's something very different than our reality, and it's something that we definitely have the capacity to understand, despite what people are trying to attempt to hijack the issues with through the rioting and looting. I think as Jews, when we read the words of the Navi, and you look at Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Yehezkel, and they cry out about these tremendous injustices in society, murder, stealing, corruption, and it almost seems like, wow, these people are terrible. And I think oftentimes we have to understand the role of the Navi, in which he saw something that was part of the society at the time. That wasn't overt murder, wasn't overt stealing, wasn't absolute corruption, but it was something more subtle. And they were calling it out within the society because they wanted to create a better society. They wanted people to come together. Look, this is ultimately a problem. This is not fair for everybody within the society. We can do better than that. That's what the Navi was calling for. And that's something that if people are calling for today, we have to be able to take a step back and analyze and look, and maybe there's a reason to saying it. Maybe there is something in society that isn't perfect. That's okay. That doesn't mean society is not wonderful. That doesn't mean the police don't deserve our support. That doesn't mean we have to overthrow our country. We love our country, we love our society, we love our police. That it doesn't mean other people can't have a voice as well. And that's what I think we have to take away. Take a step back, understand the legitimacy. Don't fall into this trap of becoming fearful of the other and now viewing them as not being entitled to have a say. Don't allow their claim to be hijacked by others. Everything in its proper place, And if we do so, hopefully we'll be able to be increased shalom in the world. We'll be able to understand each other better, help each other better, and ultimately live all together in ultimate harmony and shalom. Amen.